Hi, Mark Gilbert here. In this video, I want to share with you some thoughts regarding the unity behind duality. It's a concept that you're going to find in most flavors of New Thought. It's something that you'll find in the perennial philosophy, and it's also an idea or a realization that has been put forth by most of the mystics through their mystical experiences through the years. The very nature of this is that we live in a universe of oneness, but we experience it in the duality of form, the multiplicity of the very aspects of the one. In a sense, we are all individualized expressions of the one. We like to think of ourselves as individuals, but Ernest Holmes in Science of Mind likes to say that we are individualized. And what's the difference between individualized and being an individual? An individual holds the connotation that we are separate and apart from everything, where individualized means we are a part of the one, but we're expressing in our unique and our own way. Now, we go through this life of ours, this human life of ours, experience it in a sense of duality, that I'm here, you're there, I'm sitting right here, I'm talking to this camera, here's my computer, there are these books behind me, all of this stuff is separate from me, and I am in relationship with it. I am experiencing it as something that is separate from me. And that's part of our experience that we all have in our human aspect, our human experience. But as it's famously stated, that we are really spiritual beings who are having a human experience. And so in our spiritual truth, truth with a capital T, we come from the unity of oneness. We come from the divine or from spirit. And it's from that that we are born into the world of form and think that we are separate and apart from everything and experience it that way. So as spiritual beings having a human experience, our human experience is flavored by a sense of duality, of things appearing in relationship to one another, things appearing separate and apart from one another, and everything is experienced in that particular way. We do that even down to how we describe things as good or bad, up or down, right or wrong, left or right. Everything is seen as one thing or another thing, and the one thing is defined by its differences or not being like the other aspect. But in reality, all things are united. All things are one. So how can we see in the world of form, the world of stuff, shift our attention and our focus away from seeing things in a sense of differences, duality, and experiencing things in a sense of unity? You know, one question that often comes up when we talk about the world of form and the world of spirit as to what's really real. What's real? And, you know, there's philosophies that say that only matter is real, materialism. There's a sense of idealism that says only consciousness or thoughts or the inner world is real. But what most New Thought teaches is a realization that they're both real, that there is an ultimate truth and an ultimate reality in the world of the divine or God or spirit, but that the world of form and our experiences are real in the level in which we're experiencing them. So it's not to negate and say that our worlds are hallucinations or illusions, but rather that they are experiences that we are moving through as these human beings at this time. Now, duality teaches us to think in either or terms, that we are either spiritual beings or human beings, that we're either divine and of God or we are of matter, that there is only truth in the realm of spirit or there's only reality and truth in the world of matter. And anytime we tend to want to look at something as an either or, and we're breaking it into two categories, we're creating a sense of duality by that very nature. And we need to remind ourselves that there is a unity behind everything. Even those things that we think are separate and apart from one another are united in one. One way to look at this that's helpful is to consider a magnet. It's using the idea of polarity, that everything is in polarity. If you hold a magnet up and you've got a positive end and a negative end, it seems as if the two ends are negative and apart from one another. They're so separate that they can't be connected. But if you look, there is this gradations of differences along the bar of the magnet as you move from the positive end to the negative end. So when do we move from positive to negative? You might say, oh, there's some spot in the middle where we do it. But the truth is, that positivity and negativity are interconnected in the magnetic field of itself. And that as we move along the gradations of the magnet, we're simply moving in energetic levels, in vibratory levels, however you wish to define it, but we're moving up a grade and vibratory level at a time from one end of the polarity to the other. And so the experience on either end is going to be different. But uniting them is a common aspect of it. We can look at all things that we label as good or bad or right or wrong or left or right the same way. When does right turn into left? When does up turn into down? If you go out into space, up and down are all very relative terms. We tend to use our focus on this material world of Earth and saying, okay, where gravity holds us down on the Earth and up is up there. But when we think in terms of the bigger picture and the bigger universe, up and down are really relative terms that the only way we can describe up is in relationship to down. The same thing when we talk about higher mind or spirit is higher than matter or anything like that. Those are just relative terms for us to understand them at our human level. But in reality, behind them, up and down or higher or lower, are just defining words to get us to understand or grasp something and in its relationship. And they really are not the ultimate truth of that thing. Ultimately, all things that we see in opposites can be seen as united. They're all one. Things that we label as good or bad are based on our own learnings and understandings. Some cultures, certain things may be good. In other cultures, they may be bad. In certain families, certain rules may be good, and certain ways of behavior could be bad from family to family. Yes, there are a lot of commonalities of things that we would all agree are right and proper behavior, but in many situations, even the most egregious and incorrect behavior can be seen as serving some good in some capacity. So there's always these gray areas that we have to look at. Now, as we navigate around in the world of form and stuff, and we see things and we label them as the either or, we need to be mindful of that and recognize that behind everything that we see as total opposites, that we need to look through that scenario and see that there is actually a connecting thread between the two. When somebody presents an either or question to you, there's always an and waiting to be birthed in your understanding, a way of seeing the two separate things as interconnected in a new way. That's often where new solutions to problems can be birthed by the very nature that we move beyond the thinking of seeing as it's being either A or B and recognizing there may be something else that's waiting to be emerged that's newer and higher, that it solves both and brings the two together in a united way. That's in many of our human experiences. It's important for us to break down the concept of either or duality to move to a sense of unity in our opportunities to move through things in the physical world. But at the even greater level is the spiritual truth, and on our spiritual path is to break down the sense of either or and to see the unity in all it is. And by that, to me, to see the unity in the world of form or body and how it's interrelated to the level of mind or the mental realm and how that's related to the even quote unquote higher levels of the spiritual realm. Everything is embedded with form, mind, spirit. They're all together, it's everything. And they're all vibrating at different levels where it's how we look at things or where we turn our attention and focus in that moment. Are we looking to the spiritual vibratory levels or are we looking to the world of form? The relative world of form and the world of the absolute or God or spirit are all one. Are all one. And this is a great and central truth which I will end today by reading you a quote from the spiritual teacher Ernest Holmes from the book Ernest Holmes at Asilomar. This is from his talk given at the Asilomar Conference Center on August 12, 1959. And here's what he wrote. We know we're living in a spiritual universe. It's a spiritual system. It is alive, awake, and aware, all over with equal intensity. It belongs in its entirety to each and every individualization of itself. Emerson said, the universe remains to the heart unhurt. We do not believe there is an individual anything in the universe. If there were, it would be separated from the source of its own being, which is a universality. The universe cannot create infinite variations of individuals separate from itself because it is infinite and ever present. It can create innumerable individualizations of the entirety of itself in multiplicity, remaining in unity and without division. And that is the secret of the ages. Holmes is saying there that the secret of the ages, and one of the things that on the spiritual path is so important for each of us to recognize, is that when we see things as separate and apart from one another, we are living in the world of form and in relationship. But we need to look beyond the differences and to see the interconnectedness of everything. And when we do that in our awareness, every day, the more we can grow our muscle of seeing the unity of all that is, every day we are becoming a little more enlightened to the truth of the universe. Ultimately, we become so enlightened that we live in the space of the unity of consciousness, of the oneness. But we don't stay there. We return back to the world and live from the knowledge of unity. So I encourage you on your spiritual path to look around, and if you're seeing things as either or, to break down those divisions and to see the interconnectedness of those things that you see as separate and apart from one another. And ultimately to break down those divisions in all aspects of your life, to see you as interconnected and as oneness with everything that is. And the more that you can experience that and feel that through your own intellectual growth and your own spiritual practices, the more that you will become not only whole, but enlightened. Thanks for listening.